we're looking for approval of the agenda. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Public comment period. Anybody from the public? Like all staff, other than Brad. Next up are the committee items, first being the minutes from the February 10th meeting. Motion and support. Any changes or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Next up are the appointments. We have 3 boards with vacant seats with no applicants. First is Community Corrections Advisory Board, a workforce development person. Second is the Region 2 Planning Commission, which is a commissioner appointment. Anybody want to volunteer? Hearing nobody. And then the Emergency Management Advisory Council, it's a citizen at large seat that will continue to advertise all 3 of them and try and pressure a commissioner into taking the one. And then next month you can see what's up for appointments. Item C, we have the Emergency Management Quarterly Report. Jason, good morning.
Good morning. See that? All right. Good morning, everyone. Emergency Management Quarterly Report. It's been quite busy over the last quarter, as always. Some emergency management activities that we've focused on over the last quarter include back in December, on December 2nd, we conducted a full-scale exercise with our Jackson County Urban Search and Rescue team. The team responded to Napoleon High School. There's a large tower, for those of you familiar with the area. It was a tower that held our VHF radio equipment at the time. We needed to get that equipment down. Obviously, there was a cost factor removing that, so we looked at it from the cost-saving aspect of, well, we can utilize our Urban Search and Rescue team, add a little bit of a training exercise into it, and also be able to take the equipment down. So they simulated that exercise. Basically, the equipment on the tower was like a simulated rescue of a person. Obviously, we have a lot of cell towers, other towers in the county that have workers potentially throughout the year, and that was a great practice for them. Back on December 9th, we conducted active shooter training at Da Vinci schools. Over the summer, their facility moved from the Jackson College campus to the Baker College facility on Springport and Rise Junction Road. Springport and Rise Junction Road in Blackman Township. It was a great training. All the staff was present for that. We conducted the same training at the JC campus facility three years ago. They wanted an update, since it's a new location, so we were able to provide that to them. Back on January 4th, I felt the need to form a school resource officer group. I think it's important for the officers that are, whether you're a full-time school resource officer or whether you're just you visit the school periodically. I think it's important to bring everybody together. So we're meeting quarterly now. Our first meeting, like I said, was on January 4th. It's great for planning, sharing ideas. Things that are going on in one school are probably going on in another. So I had that going on. Emergency Operations Center activation back in January. Excuse me. January 9th, as a matter of fact, I activated our Emergency Operations Center to monitoring level. I was able to enter information into MySIMS, which is the Michigan Incident Critical Management System. What this does is it lets the state know how we are doing locally, whether it's just at a monitoring stage or if it's something beyond that. The governor gets on every morning, looks at that, says, okay, I got an issue down in this part of the state I need to pay special attention to. So on January 9th, we were kind of touch and go as far as flooding here locally. we had some concerns. We did have some minor flooding throughout the county. Some rural roadways were washed out temporarily. Road Commission did a great job on that, getting all those taken care of. Fortunately for us, we didn't receive the amount of water or amount of rain rather that we were expected. That Thursday, I had met with a member of the National Weather Service, and we were looking at flood stage that was 2.5 feet above anything we've ever seen here in Jackson County before. So we got lucky, knock on wood, on that one. I think it was a test run for what we possibly may have coming this spring. Emergency management training. Over the last quarter, I hosted 3 federally funded training courses that were brought to Jackson County. The first one was AWR 328. It was an all hazards preparedness for animals and disasters. That was back in January. I identified some areas and some gaps that I felt we needed here. In the past, we never really looked too much into the pre-planning and planning of what are we going to do with animals and disasters. It's something that kind of, I don't want to say is overlooked, but for lack of better terms, it's overlooked because we don't know, we don't know what we're going to do with a bunch of, whether it's domestic pets or whether it's agricultural stuff. So in January we held that course. It was a great turnout. We had 35 people from not only Jackson County but around the region as well. We held that at the Department of Transportation in the boardroom. The follow-up to that class was Management 448. It was an all hazards planning for animal, agricultural, and food-related disasters. We had 27 people in attendance for that. Again, local, regional, and state partners as well, along with federal in those. So it was a great opportunity that we have to be able to bring these courses to Jackson County. I think it's very beneficial to all of us as far as planning and in the emergency management side, a lot of times we're not in the limelight until it goes really bad. So that pre-planning, everything we can do to plan and try to protect and mitigate some things is our forefront. In March, actually last Thursday rather, I held a flooding hazards course. It was science and preparedness. That was also up to the Department of Transportation. We had 21 people in attendance for that. It was kind of an awareness level course. Talked about how we can prepare and try to mitigate some flooding things and kind of the science and preparedness from behind the scenes on that and what we can do with that. Excuse me. Some of the planning activities that, this is just a few of the highlighted ones that we've done over the quarter. Working on our hazard mitigation plan. We did submit a request for proposal on that. That closed late last week. That was to update our FEMA hazard mitigation plan. Moving down to the Jackson County Animal Disaster Plan, I'm going to be working with Lydia and her staff on that. We have a plan in place. We just need to update it, add some things that we've learned over those 2 courses that we brought. So I'm looking forward to that. Keeley Park Emergency Operations Plan, working with Denise and Jack McLaughlin on that. Our idea behind that plan is we currently have a plan in place. I just think I want to detail it a lot more than it is. We're looking at it from the general Keeley Park plan, the broad view, and then we're going to break it down into a fair annex, and we're also going to break it down into special events for the special event center. So we're going to have the broad picture, and then we're going to break it down specifically into 2 annexes on that. So we got that going. We have a follow-up meeting next month, and our goal is to have that done by June. SARA Title III hazardous material site plans. This is a wonderful time of the year because every day my mailbox is stacked full of thick envelopes with hazardous material plans that come in. Under federal law, all the facilities in the county are required to submit me their their Tier 2 reports. That includes what type of chemicals they have on site, how much, maximum amount per year, maximum amount per day, and kind of their emergency operations planning that they have there.
what do you do with them after that?
After that, what we do is the extremely hazardous substances are called EHS materials. Those plans we share with our LEPC, which is our Local Emergency Planning Committee, which is our hazardous materials operations section chief is in charge of that. That's Assistant Fire Chief Chris Ermitanger. He's our LEPC chair. We share that information with them. I keep a record, obviously, in my office of those. With the new CAD system with dispatch, we're working with Jason Hammond to get those plans input directly into CAD. That way, you know, it's right there with a click of a button. So all those plans, all the facility layouts showing, okay, here's the layout of the building. This is the corner of the building where all these EHS materials, there's really, you know, the real bad stuff is over here and whatnot. So it's a great it's a great planning tool. Helps us understand what's there, what we have to either shelter in place for, evacuate for, things of that nature. So on that flip side, every year I have to update those plans specifically with the state. I have to register those with the state as well. Outdoor warning sirens. Over the last quarter, we started the outdoor warning sirens annual maintenance. Those the maintenance is completed and done by West Shore Services. I believe they're out of the southwestern portion of the state. We do an annual maintenance on them to make sure they're up and working properly. So we started that, I believe it was early January, and we're continuing on. There was a group out here last week as well. Animal disaster response trailer. Just prior to the animal disaster courses that we hosted, a gentleman from the MSU Extension reached out to me. They identified Jackson County as being a prime area for a emergency response or animal disaster trailer. They had placed one in Branch County. There's a new pork processing facility in that area that sees a lot of ag trailers coming to and from each day. If you remember back in, I think it was 2018 in Jackson County, we had the ag crash down in Hanover at Moscow and Hanover Road. We had a lot of pigs running around. Fortunately, in that event, there was a lot of farmers, local farmers, that pitched in and helped out, which is phenomenal. This gentleman from MSU approached me on it and said, you know, what if this happened out on I-94? What if it happened on a major area? Do the responders have the necessary equipment and knowledge to, you know, corral all these animals? So the plan or the idea behind this animal response trailer is pretty neat. MSU Extension has raised a lot of money through private partners. We've had them attend our local planning team meetings. 2 weeks ago, they attended our fire chiefs meeting. We're looking at a partnership with them, the Fire Chiefs Association, along with emergency management, to put funding together to bring a trailer to Jackson County. We're working on, you know, the details with that, but right now we have a trailer that was used prior for like a foam trailer back in the day for the fire departments. So we're moving forward with that. It's a good thing. It'll be nice. You know, our idea is to keep it at a fire department or fire station that is somewhat centrally located, because ideally, for a response, you know, we want something that can get there fairly soon. In the trailer, you'll have gates, you'll have sorting boards. I'm, you know, not a farmer, so I don't know all the proper terminology, so I apologize. But yeah, so everything will be in the trailer. It'll be a great resource once we get that going. It'll also help out Lydia and her staff if she ever runs into anything like that or needs help from us. Excuse me. Moving over to some of the projects that we funded over the last quarter with the Homeland Security Grant Program. Code Red Mass Notification, working on that for 2020. That dollar amount, I was able, in the past we've paid $30,000 for that. This year I was able to negotiate that down to $20,000, so we have some savings there. TrueNarc chemical analyzer detector. Last month I was in front of this board requesting that. I just got the invoice for that, so I anticipate that will be shipped this week. So that'll be an awesome addition to help us out here in the county on things as well. Jackson County Negotiator Response Team headsets. We approved a project at our local planning team for negotiator headsets. These are what our negotiator response team utilizes to listen in on conversations through the throw phone or through the hostage negotiator phone or crisis negotiator phone. So we were able to provide those to them. The next project we approved was for the special response team is our breaching tool. Anybody that has ever watched a police show on TV knows that ramming a door is not always the most quiet or effective way to gain entry. This breaching tool is basically like the Jaws of Life. Actually, that's where the company is from. It's a pneumatic tool. It's battery operated. It's portable. They can approach, place it on the door, and with the power of the pneumatic side of it, it's able to pop the door a lot more efficient, quietly, than simply beating it with a ram to get in. And then last but not least on the projects for this quarter, our urban search and rescue team approached our planning team rather, to provide them with rescue air cushions. And what these cushions are, it's almost like a great big pillow that you can slide underneath. Say you have a vehicle on top of another one, or a bus, or building collapse. You can slide the cushions underneath. Runs off of air, and then they can lift it and stabilize it. So that's a nice addition for that team. Upcoming emergency management activities that we have in the works. Mark your calendars. March 25th is the statewide tornado drill. It's at 1 p.m. I encourage everyone to participate in that. It's a great day. I know a lot of schools participate in it to count that as one of their emergency drill requirements for the year. The FY20 Michigan State Police Competitive School Safety Grant, I'm working with all the school districts that are applying for that right now. That grant is similar to the grant that they've had in the past. This year, they're only opening it up to public schools. There's something in the works for private schools as well, but that hasn't been released yet. So that's the grant paperwork is due March 27th. Sky1 Weather Spotter Training, I'm hosting that on Saturday, April 11th. It'll be from 10 to 12 at the health department in the big conference room downstairs. For those of you that would like to attend that, it's kind of neat. You learn, it's a 2-hour block that you learn, what to look for, and it's pretty interesting. So if you'd like to attend that, let me know. We can get you signed up. Rising Water Statewide Exercise 2020. That's coming up. We're in the planning. We just had our final planning meeting at the state level last week. This is going to be a federal, state, local exercise. Jackson County will be participating in this. We're working on exactly what day. I don't want to extend it over a 2-day period, but we will be having an EOC, Emergency Operations Center, orientation activation for this. What this exercise is basically, I don't want to say the entire state of Michigan, but critical infrastructure, key areas such as Jackson County will be flooding, and then we're going to be working through the processes of that. Our portion of this will be, like I said, an EOC orientation / exercise. Where we're going to fall into this is the dam in Michigan Center is going to have a failure. That's going to inundate the Grand River, and then ultimately all that flows down through the city of Jackson. So that's going to be the scenario behind it. So we're looking forward to that. Moves us along to the 2020 spring flooding outlook. Ironically, this statewide exercise was built before anybody really knew what our spring was going to possibly hold for us. So it's just kind of ironic how this works. Our water levels are higher than they've ever been, highest on record. Fortunately, we didn't get a lot of snow in January. We did in February. Hopefully we don't in March, because I think right now all our river levels, if you drive by anywhere, there's a lot of the rivers, lakes, streams are at capacity. Downstream from us, the Great Lakes are obviously full. We have nowhere to put it. So what that means is it's going to back up. and we're going to flood. To what level, we're not 100% certain. It just all depends on what Mother Nature has in store for us over these next few weeks. So your areas that normally flood in the spring, fortunately for us, we have a lot of areas that are rural. Out in Henrietta area by the prison, a lot of that, Portage River, Grand River area, most of it's rural, but nonetheless, eventually it's going to get full and then it's going to back up into areas that normally don't flood, so we just got to prepare for that. Excuse me. Moving down to the last bullet point that I have, emergency services, farm tractor and machinery rescue training that I'm hosting. I brought this in for Saturday, September 26th. What this is, it's a full day offering. We're going to be hosting it at Henrietta Township Fire Department. It's partially classroom, and then it's a hands-on training. And what this is about farm machinery accidents, rollovers, tractor rollovers, any type of agricultural accident that we normally don't see. These are kind of your higher end accidents, what to do. So we're bringing that in. It's a federally funded training, also through OSHA, or MyOSHA. So that'll be a great course for those responders that we have in our county.
Commissioners, any questions of Jason? Phil?
Yes, sir.
Sir, the Skyward
Yes, sir.
Water, where's that?
That's going to be at the health department in the big conference room on the main level. It's 005. You're welcome.
Any other questions for Jason, Commissioners? Darius?
Well, just a quick question. When is the next active shooter training?
We don't have anything scheduled right now for that. Normally, this time of year with the schools, it gets pretty busy. Normally, they'll reach out to us, and I haven't had any requests for it yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Nothing further.
Welcome.
Any additional comments or questions? Hearing none, thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Takes us to the Youth Center semi-annual report. Good morning.
Morning. My name's Chuck Baker. I'm the director at the Youth Center, for those of you that don't know me. 2019, the Youth Center had a total number of 209 admissions into our facility. This is down from 286 in 2018 and 284 in 2017. The most frequently documented offenses were domestic violence and probation violations. And although they're not a high percentage of the number of kids that we have in custody, we're having a concerning number of kids coming into custody for weapons offenses, guns offenses, as well as threats against the local schools, most of those being made by social media. In addition to the secure detention services that we offer, the Youth Center also provides short-term, non-secure residential treatment services, that being our Teen Intensive Programming Services, or TIPS. That program is for chronically delinquent youth that cannot be safely supervised in the court by the court in the community. These placements typically last 60 to 90 days, and our TIPS program focuses on practical life skills, anger and aggression management, community service, and trauma education. Last fall, the Youth Center participated in a strategic planning session that was facilitated by Karen Andrews of the Andrews Group, and through that process, we updated our mission, our vision, and our core values. We also developed a 3-year plan which focuses on improving staff training, retention of our high-performing staff, and continued development of the relationships between the Youth Center and the courts. Last month, we joined the Health Department in piloting an online learning software program called Relias. That program contains thousands of training modules specific to juvenile justice as well as mental health, among other topics. That program has been really well received by our staff, and just over a month of implementation, we've had over 340 hours of training that have been completed by our staff through that software. So we're pretty excited about what that is able to offer us. The Youth Center is also currently participating in an all-staff training series on diversity and inclusion. Dr. Kinladna Ferguson is providing 4 separate trainings focusing on diversity, microaggressions, excuse me, engaging in conversations about diversity, and operationalizing diversity, equality, and inclusion. It is our hope that these trainings will help us to to develop a stronger, more cohesive team at the youth center that's better prepared to meet the needs of our community and our residents. We've also been working with the facilities department to coordinate the installation of new flooring throughout the youth center's hallways, medical room, and dining room. Those floors will encapsulate the original 1960s tiles from our building and provide a more updated look and less institutional feel throughout our building.
Commissioners, any questions for Chuck? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Takes us to the front of the court, semi-annual report. Morning, Sarah.
Good morning, everyone. Sarah Anderson, for those of you that don't know me. Normally I talk to you about our numbers, and I thought this time we would switch gears a little bit and talk about our strategic plan. For the last 6 months, we've been working to develop our 5-year strategic plan. I did bring with me today Susie Crittenden. She's our new deputy director. Wanted to make sure that you all were introduced and saw her face because she has been helping me spearhead and move forward with a lot of the changes that we want to make over the next 5 years. So the first thing that we did was reaffirm our mission, vision, and values. And you'll see in our values, those are the Quick T Jackson County values. And then moving on to our 5 strategic goal areas. These are strategic goals that not only impact the Jackson County, but the Office of Child Support, the State Court Administrator's Office, and our office as well, because we have competing priorities and competing organizations that influence what we do. We wanted to make sure that our key strategic goal areas also reflected the strategic goals of the other entities that we work with. So improving client experience, improving child support processes, improving our performance factors, improving staff development, education, and satisfaction, and then improving community outreach. So notably on the improving client experience, we really want to focus and expand on our no wrong door philosophy. One of the things we find with our clients is that they're met with many hoops that they have to jump through. So if they want to accomplish this, they have to jump through this hoop, go over to this building, then if it doesn't work out, then they have to go over here. We want to eliminate those barriers that prevent them from getting their access to justice or the services that they need. So we will be working with our workflow process analysis, looking at what workflows that we have that create wrong doors, that create barriers for their access. Also notably, in our first floor in our customer service area, we did do some renovations, creating our support services unit. We used to have 5 windows that were set up, and they were, bulletproof glass windows with a little speaker in the center, and people had to, kind of speak underneath to try to get their information in and yell through the glass. It really was quite, an unpleasant experience. So we made the simple change to just change the glass to sliding glass, so you had a free communication between the customer service rep and the person that was doing their business there. And that has made a huge improvement with our experience with our clients. Clients are commenting, oh, I don't have to yell my social security number through this glass that you can't hear me from, or having to, feel like they're yelling the entire time. We had one client that actually shook the support services unit's hand and said, thank you for allowing me to actually see and hear what you're trying to say. So we were happy about just a simple change like that. We also are expanding our Matterhorn software, which is our text notification. So for our hearings, we're offering text notifications, reminders, text notifications of any changes, where the hearings are located at, as well as an opportunity to negotiate the hearing without having to appear. So people that maybe have limited resources or are unable to come to the hearing, they can do an online mediation through that texting. So improving the child support processes, we want to focus on changing our business process to match our organizational mission and determine how current practices create positive or negative results. So simple things like when someone misses a payment on their child support, are we moving too quickly to hearings and enforcement and going after the person when maybe we need to slow that process down and look at what's best? Do we need to look at job seeking efforts, or is the person having a medical crisis, something that's preventing them from paying? Rather than just going for swift and assumptions, we want to make sure that our processes are reflective of the best interest of the children, the best interest of the families. Improving the performance factors, you'll see, you all are noted on number 3, meet or exceed the Board of Commissioners' timely and quality service standards. So those were standards that were set for me several years ago when I started this position, or took this position, regarding our average hold times, making sure that our clients are not sitting on hold for 20, 30 minutes. Our average hold time is under 2 minutes, so we're very proud of that, and we want to make sure that we keep that. Accessibility to our staff. When a client comes in and says that they want to meet with our caseworker, we make that a possibility. And then timeliness of the work and the output. We want to make sure that our work is done in a timely manner, that parenting time complaints, support reviews are all processed in a timely manner. Then moving on to improving staff development, education, and satisfaction. We want to help continue to improve our positive office culture. We recognize that our office, we deal with a lot of unpleasant, sad, and really difficult things on a daily basis, and that can create a very tense work environment and office culture. So we want to make sure that we're filling our staff's cups. We want to make sure that they recognize that they are doing good, that they are working hard for our families and our community. And things that focus on that are implementing new onboarding programs. So making sure that our new staff come in, are well-versed in our mission, vision, values, understand our purpose, understand our goals so that we can move forward to serve our community. The last strategic goal is related to improving community outreach. This is also on the Jackson County Strategic Plan. Notably, the focus that we want to work on right now is working with our corrections department. Because the prison system is right here, we have a great opportunity to work with those parents that are incarcerated, make sure their child support is not charging while they're incarcerated, and then when they get ready to be released, work with them on finding employment, what it's going to look like when they're out and they have an ability to access their children and see their children for the first time. A lot of these parents have been incarcerated for 5, 10, 15 years, and their children aren't babies anymore. And the relationship that they have is going to be substantially different. So we want to make sure that parents that are coming back out into the community have realistic expectations of what it's going to be like to be a parent now and support their children when they've been incarcerated for so long. So any questions about all that?
Commissioners, any questions for Sarah? Darius?
I don't have any questions, but I do want to just comment. I really do appreciate the work that you've done to make the advances within the area for those that use the services and just the things with the glass and things like that. It just helps just to make people more comfortable in an already uncomfortable situation. So just thank you for that foresight to make those changes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Takes us to the airport semi-annual report. Morning, Juan.
Okay, good morning, Commissioners. Your airport is a safe airport. We haven't had any incidents in all of 2019, and it continues to operate in a safe manner. We had all of the county-owned hangars are leased, and we have a wait list. So the airport is primed for growth, continued growth. 95% of the private hangars, all 62 of them, were inspected for federal compliance last year. We're working with several of the tenants to make sure that they are bringing their hangars up to speed. We have county leases with them, and we also have federal grant assurances that they have to comply with. The roof and the HVAC system on the control tower was replaced last November, and so now the air traffic controllers are very happy that they don't have any heating problems anymore. The restaurant sale was completed in November of last year, and the restaurant just passed their liquor license inspection, and they're expecting to have a liquor license by the end of the month, as well as new restaurant hours. We're also hosting in the Terminal Building the Heritage Center exhibit titled Going Home, A Story of Courage, sacrifice, and friendship. And if you haven't been to the terminal building lately, this is a really nice exhibit that will be going from our terminal building to Lansing, in the Capitol building in Lansing. So it's a really nice exhibit about 3 pilots that learned how to fly in Jackson. 2 of them never made it back home from World War II, and this is their story. For 2019, our operations were up 7.5% from 2018. We're continuing to struggle with our slow training operations. We rely on flight school training, takeoffs and landings in order to build up our total operations. And our fuel sales are continuing to decrease from previous years.
On the 43,000 figure for aircraft operations, that's takeoffs and/or landings.
Takeoffs and landings, that's correct, yes. And if you can see, going back to 2007, we're recovering slightly from lower numbers, but it's still way below the way they used to be in the early 2000s. The main cause of the lower operations is our Jackson College flight training. Their operations are down substantially. So we're continuing to work with the college to try and see if we can get that program restarted. Right now I'm working with a program out of Livingston County Airport to see if we can get them down to Jackson Intermediate School District. And they will be basically providing the high school kids STEM programs that emphasize aviation training. So hopefully that will get us better operations at the airport. I wanted to compare the fuel sales with the takeoffs and landings. And going back to 2007, once again, we can see how our fuel sales were up much more, that we had over 200,000 gallons sold every year compared to 2019. The reason I want to mention the fuel sales is because we make a fuel flowage fee for every gallon of fuel that's sold at the airport. Yes, the slides were changed slightly at the last minute. I can blame my new boss, Chris Bolt. he sent a TED talk talking about Boeing's PowerPoint presentations, and so I updated my presentation to that.
So Juan, back to slide 4, I was kind of comparing what I was seeing with what you had.
Yes.
And on the right side, it's got percentage of increase, decrease. That's gallons of fuel sold.
That is correct. Yeah, the right side is fuel sales annual, and your left side is the actual takeoffs and landings.
Yeah, that wasn't on what I had here, so.
And going back to 2007, that's when NASCAR was really big in the area, and Jackson College was flight training tremendous amounts of pilots all the time. Since then, NASCAR is much less active in the Jackson area, and Jackson College has stopped practically their flight training. So once again, because we do rely on fuel sales in order to provide revenue to the airport, it's critical that we try and increase our fuel sales as much as we can. Which brings up this slide. This shows the total corporate itinerant operations. For 2018, there were 273 for the whole year. For 2019, that's 280. Keeping in mind that that's 280 airplanes that are flying into Jackson to conduct business in the Jackson area. And those 280 operations for 2019, they provided over 65% of the fuel sales. So these are the guys that are going to give us the revenue in the future. We got to continue to work on attracting corporate operations into the Jackson area. If we can increase this number substantially, then obviously our fuel flowage fees will bring in more revenue to the county and the airport.
Juan,
Yes.
can you take a second and speak to the need for pilots in the future?
Okay, yes. So basically, in the United States, by the year 2035, we're going to be short over 700,000 pilots. And in 2018, and correction, in 2019, there were only 1,700 airline transport pilot licenses issued. So we're way behind in training pilots in the United States. And here in Jackson, we have a tremendous opportunity if we can get Jackson College to revamp their program and start training pilots. I've been working with Eastern Michigan University and Western Michigan University to try and get them into a program with Jackson College, where the kids can spend 1 year flight training in Jackson, and then move on to Eastern or Western. That would be a win-win for both the college and for the universities. And if you're a freshman going to Western Michigan right now, you don't start flight training until the end of your sophomore year. They're so far behind in their flight training. So this will be a real benefit for our local kids that can start flight training early on. But basically, like Mike said, the United States is way behind in flight training for future pilots. Going back to the community benefit assessment, this was done in November by Michigan Department of Transportation. And I'm going to focus in on the community benefit specifically to the Jackson area. We have over 100 based aircraft at the airport, and the total impact on jobs in the community that the airport produces is 221 jobs for a community benefit of over $39 million. So the airport continues to be very important to the community, and companies like Blaine's Farm and Fleet, they choose to come into Jackson because of the airport. It makes it easy for them to visit their stores. Same thing with companies like Walmart and Target. They all have corporate offices, and they fly in to check on their stores on a regular basis. For 2020, our main project is going to be the apron. And this was a project that was delayed from 2019, which turned out to be a benefit for us. The reconstruction of the apron will allow us to have a new patio for the restaurant, and this will make hopefully the apron restaurant much more successful to the community. We do rely on the restaurant being open so that we get a lot of operations coming into the area as well. And in 2020, we're also going to do some pavement maintenance. We'll be crack sealing runway 1432, which is now 12 years old, and it's developing some cracks. We have a waiting list for tenants that are interested in building or moving their airplanes into the airport, but we don't have any empty hangars. So we're looking into the possibility of developing hangars on the west side of the airport. And I had brought this plan last fall, and now that the situation is getting a little bit more dire, we're going to start developing a site plan that will give us an idea of what it will cost to put utilities on the west side of the airport. Most of the tenants that are interested in building a hangar have told us they will much prefer if they could just come right in and build their building without having to provide and find the utilities. And everybody wants electric, gas, propane, internet. So we'll be working on that to see if we can attract more both corporate and private tenants into the airport. Any questions, commissioners? Yes, sir?
About the fuel sales, are the private hangars allowed to have their own fuel storage?
They are not.
Okay,
No, we have two fuel storage locations. One is owned by Jackson College and one by the FBO, the local business.
so if I had a hangar out there, I would by default be buying fuel from?
Well, we cannot prohibit you from putting your own fuel tanks, but you have to meet the same requirements as everybody else. So that means you have to have a minimum of a 10,000 gallon tank and all the fire suppression equipment to do that.
Okay, I just wondering how to boost fuel sales.
The local tenants do buy fuel from us, and it's all dependent on how competitive our fuel prices are. But like I said, the jet traffic accounts for over 65% of the fuel sales at the airport. So the little guys, the little airplanes that fly in on the weekends to stop at the restaurant, they're buying 10, 15 gallons of fuel. When you have a jet aircraft coming in, they buy 500, 700 gallons of fuel at a time.
Okay, thank
So
you.
it's much more profitable to have the jet traffic coming in. And that's our biggest challenge for this next year or two, is going to be how do we attract more of that jet traffic to come in. The numbers are really low. 280 operations a year is pretty low for an airport this size.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions of Juan? Commissioners? Hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Takes us to the public defender furniture purchase. Good morning.
Good morning. Morning, Commissioners. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Joe Kanan. I am the acting public defender. Our office was located here in the Tower Building from approximately July or August of last year until February of 2020. We moved to our new location at 505 South Jackson Street, which was a building that was acquired for the purposes of housing all staff and attorneys. When we moved into the new building, there were no furnishings to bring with us. We contacted Kentwood Office Supply and requested a proposal, a bid for providing furnishings to all offices. We received those furnishings, they were assembled, and they look really tremendous, and we are seeking the approval of the board for payment of that invoice in the approximate amount of $37,841.89.
Joe, importantly, MIDC has authorized up to $40,000 for it, correct?
That has been completely funded by the grant by the MIDC for both the calendar year 2019, fiscal year 2019, and fiscal year 2020.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions or?
Yeah, just a quick question. Now, I know we see a lot of invoices for various things, but didn't we already approve an invoice for furniture? For this
Deb is
office
saying
already?
no.
No? Okay. I thought we did. Yeah, I thought we did. But
I had some recollections of furniture for him.
Yeah, there was something Kentwood, as I recall, but I don't know that it was for public defender necessarily.
We buy furniture in lots of places, so.
We just ordered this in January and just received it, so.
Okay.
Go ahead.
A lot of times what happens, Darius, is you're correct. We authorize it, it becomes a budgetary authorization, but then it comes back before this body upon purchase of us actually qualifying the purchases and then actually purchasing the item. So you could see it up to 3 times here. First appear in the planning stages, second in the budgetary operations, and as we've discovered over our operations with the state and the MADC, we have conversations that are constantly ongoing. So you could see things cycle through. While they don't actually get done until we take action like right now, we see a lot of different steps to get there because it has to meet different criteria. Yes, sir.
Okay, so it's approved at the committee level, so we're looking for a motion to spend $37,841.89 with Kentwood Office Furniture.
Moved.
Support.
Motion and support. Additional questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Takes us to the Animal Shelter Animal Control Ordinance. Lydia, good morning.
Good morning.
So Lydia, I think you've got, 40-some pages on the Animal Control Ordinance? And I think it was originally the plan to have this at the study session, which didn't happen because of lack of quorum. And Lydia was kind enough to provide a copy that's a red line and blue line version. And just to lay some of the groundwork, Lydia and I and Deb and Tony met after the initial review of it, and I think there were some changes made based on that. So we can have Lydia go through it if we need to hit the highlights, or if commissioners just want to throw questions out there, might be a more efficient way to do it with any issues that they've got.
I don't have to see it.
Lydia, do you have a preference on how you want to, do you want to go through line by line or just ask for,
I think we have like a brief overview.
okay? You can roll with that then, when you get it there.
Is this better one? I think. No, I guess that's not it.
Not that one, all right, that's not right. Let's get-
So there's a two-page document that I think is the one Lydia's going to pull up.
The staff report, there was a presentation that we had for study session, but I didn't attach that because I didn't know if we were going to do a presentation or not.
Okay.
So
I
there's
can
a
just-
presentation in the study session.
Okay, no problem. I'll just go through and highlight the major changes. Most of the changes were just typos or updates to things such as the treasurer no longer, with the, yes, are no longer in townships. That's already been ongoing. So just kind of clarifying that language that you can get your license, your dog license at the treasurer's office or at the animal shelter now. So that's something that's new. So most of it's just updated language. A couple of the additions that are really making changes here are the seizure section, and that's basically called a cost of care provision. I am looking right now.
What are we talking about?
4.8.
Page 17.
This is a seizure of mistreated animals. This language is also in state law, not, exact language, but basically the same concept because of the fact that when you're doing an animal seizure, that's a civil order, whereas criminal is completely different. So to expedite the process, when you're holding live animals as evidence, it's better for the defendant, it's better for the county, and it's better for the animals if we expedite that process. And this just outlines who's responsible for the cost of care, and it expedites that process for disposition of animals, so that will be within 30 days versus waiting years possibly if it's to go through the criminal process. So due process is still in place here. Like I said, this is similar language that's in state law. We're just outlining that in our ordinance as well.
And Lydia, that came into play in a case from Columbia here several months ago where you took in how many animals, 20 or 30, I think?
Right, around 30 animals.
And were a variety of animals. They weren't all dogs. It was a mix
Correct.
that had to be hosted at different places throughout the county with people helping you take care of them. So that's why it's important to be expeditious.
Exactly, yep. In that particular case, we had one whole room closed off just for those case animals, in addition to having members in our community holding animals for us that we couldn't hold at the shelter. So for the sake of everyone, that kind of helps move that process along. Was there any questions about the cost of care provision? Okay. The next major addition is the addition to classification of animals, dangerous animals. We do have, I'm looking for that now. Thanks for your patience.
Looks like it's 9.1 on page 32, starting.
Okay. When we're looking at animals, as far as if someone would report an animal that's skinny per se, and you want to say, well, in whose opinion is it skinny? We use a scale that's known nationally, body score scale. So we can say this is how the animal looks according to this scale. Classifying dangerous animals kind of is the same thing. Someone can say, well, your dog's aggressive. This really lays out clearly in black and white, so it's an unbiased determination of what's a dangerous animal. This way it's fair across the board. It's not based on someone's opinion. It'll give different steps as to what is determined to be a dangerous animal and at what level does that animal need to, be contained, be euthanized, whatever the case may be, when it becomes a real danger to public safety. So this just gives a very clear classification of what a dangerous animal is, so we can enforce that ordinance across the board.
Bill?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lydia, are your animal control officers, do they carry a weapon with them when they're on duty,
You do not have a firearm, no.
but they're going out and having to handle dangerous animals,
Correct,
unhappy owners?
absolutely.
That don't seem fair.
They would probably agree with you on that.
Is there been any thought given to providing the animal control officers some personal protection? Such as
We have discussed that, the animal control officers and I have discussed that. I haven't brought it to Deborah at this time. There's a lot that goes into that, so we want to.
I know
careful
I
moving
run a
forward.
trash collection company here in the county, and I've had several of my employees bitten badly by vicious dogs. I mean, where they had to have 3, 4, 5 days off work. And seems like we're maybe at the point where we should maybe have our officers armed. Just a thought. I mean, some of my people do have concealed carry permits, and I don't discourage it at all. And I was just wondering, I didn't know if they carried or not, but it seems like they should, to me.
Bill, if I can answer, I think one of the distinct differences is our animal control officers, one of which is sitting here, are highly trained, number one, and number two, if they're going on a call that they feel that there's a threat, they typically do call us or the local agency to come out and assist them. That's one distinct difference
But you
between.
never know when you're going to run into a very irate animal owner
It is
either,
true.
and I think
Well,
they deserve the right to protect themselves as I would.
but again, an irate owner is something that would typically come out with a 911 call or prior history with an address. And that's a situation where they would typically have an officer go with them, but certainly merits talking about, I think, but.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. So other than those two additions, like I said, it's mostly typos and just corrections of what's current.
Lydia, I've got one question. It's on page 10 of it, and it's 3.3. I meant to mention it to you this morning, but it talks about who is authorized to enforce the ordinance. Page 10, section 3.3. It says the sheriff, animal shelter director, and animal control officers shall enforce this ordinance and state statutes. The reality is that many local agencies use this same ordinance to write, and the fact is also that state law prohibits a local municipality from having an animal control ordinance and county coming in and enforcing it there. You can't have both.
Right.
And our township did away with our local ordinance a long time ago so that you could. And what our officers do, if your officers aren't available or if it's more convenient, is we sometimes will use this to write the citation. Should there be wording in there to reflect that, I wonder?
I don't see how that would hurt.
Yeah. Okay, well, if you can give consideration to that.
Sure.
That's the only thing that I had. Commissioners, any other comments? Tony?
Well, thank you for the meeting we had last week. That cleared up 24 of my 25 questions.
Great.
So thank you for that opportunity. Page 29, section 7.1.30. I still wasn't quite comfortable with the wording on that after we met and talked further further to Dave, and I'm going to propose a little history for the other commissioners. 7.130 starts off, failed to provide adequate grooming for the animal. The next section, 7.2, also has failed to provide. 30 talks about when the animal is in pain or distress. 7.2 talks about when the animal is in pain or distress. And the categories under each of those include unable to urinate or defecate, crying out in pain, unable to rise or walk. So we've got identical conditions that might require grooming, might require getting the dog veterinary care. So to try to clarify the difference between these two, I'd like to propose a wording change. 7.1.30. I would like it to change it to read, to fail to provide adequate grooming when the animal is in pain or distress caused by inadequate grooming, and because of inadequate grooming, it is unable to lift its head, unable to urinate. I would like to differentiate somewhere in here, because as our conversations, if a dog is long-haired, it's matted, the hair is matted, the dog can be crying out in pain. Well, the dog can be in the second section crying out in pain because its leg is broken because it got hit by a car. I want to try to clarify when is grooming required and when is taking the animal to a vet required.
So, Tony, if I can point out that we don't have a motion on the floor yet to send this on, and what I would suggest is that much like my suggestion on page 10, 3.3, that we leave Lydia with the thoughts on both of these, ask her to review them. You can certainly follow up with her, and then that we would forward this on as it's been presented for approval next Tuesday, and that in the interim, she can look to change those sections if she so sees it necessary. I agree with you. I think we do need to make the distinction on those things, and I think it'd be easy to do. But if you're good with that, I think that's the appropriate way to deal with it.
What section is that?
It has to be section 7.1.30 is where I'm suggesting a change in the wording. And I'm suggesting that because 7.130 and 7.2 have overlap in the wording, and I'd just like to clarify that better. So, Dave, you're saying the appropriate time to make a motion and change this?
My suggestion, Tony, would be that we make a motion to send it on as it's been presented, making our notes about what we'd like to see changed. Ask Lydia to look at those. She can get back with Mike, I guess, and let us know how she's doing with it, if she's going to actually change those things. So I'm looking for a motion to send it on as presented, knowing that we both have suggestions, and ask her to look at those.
So moved.
Support.
So we have a motion and support. Any other questions or comments? Phil?
Lydia, I live out in a rural area. I had a neighbor contact me, and he is taking down like 11 coyotes that bother his sheep. Is that his only option, is to take them himself, or would he come forward and, I mean, what should he do
I think that's the correct
for him to take them down
decision.
himself?
Yeah, he's got the right to protect his property, and they're considered nuisance animals, so that would be really the only option.
All right, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and support. If no additional questions or comments, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Thank you, Lydia.
Thank you.
Next up is your quarterly report.
Okay. So, first off, I wanted to update you on the building plans. We did have a pre-bid meeting on Friday. We had 8 different contractors that bid on the project. We are expecting review and approval of the bids sometime between this month and April. And we are also going to Summit Township for a plan review in mid-March. We don't anticipate any problems there with getting the building addition approved. Somewhere between 6 and 8 months is the estimate for the project completion. So we're hoping to see Phase 1 at the end of 2020, and Phase 2 would be the back building and doing the renovations there. But Phase 1 we would hope to see by the end of this year. Community engagement, as you know, we did hire a full-time project program and volunteer manager, and I'm really thankful for that position because we have been very, very busy. This just shows on the PowerPoint here just some of the things that we've done just in January and February alone. We do visits on a regular basis to medical care facilities, retirement homes, children's classrooms. In addition, we have many businesses that come to the shelter and have a volunteer day. So we'll have a whole group of people that will come to volunteer, and they usually bring donations. There's just so many different groups and diverse groups in the community that we are interacting with on a regular basis, and it keeps getting busier. So without that position of the volunteer coordinator and program manager, we would never be able to reach all these people that we are now. And so it's been amazing to have, and it's great to just have that connection with the community. We have our own event coming up on May 2nd, the Jackson's Bark and Brew. It's basically a fun event. We want to bring the community together. We're hoping it's a nice spring day where you can have sample local brewers, beer, bring your pets with you. We'll be indoors and outdoors. We have live entertainment, door prizes, a lot of community involvement. We met with Phil Tripp on Friday, and he's going to be sponsoring our advertising for TV and radio for this event, which is a donation of around $10,000. So we appreciate his support as well. So it's going to be fun. I'm going to put that on record. So cat statistics. From January till March 3rd, we adopted 143 cats from the shelter. 46 of those adoptions were through our local partners, PetSmart and Pet Supplies Plus. All the adoption fees that are off-site come back to the shelter in their entirety. And in addition to that, at PetSmart, you can see that they also pay us essentially to adopt our animals there. So when we adopt 50 animals out, they will send us a check for $1,000.
Lydia?
Yep.
I think our chair has a question.
Yes.
First thing, I want to congratulate you and your staff on an excellent job
Thank you.
with our shelter and taking care of our animals. I've been approached repeatedly by people who are concerned about, in the urban area, the number of cat colonies that we're not approaching to cure the problem. We have made different commitments over time here in the last year and a half to them, and they really would like to get started on trapping, sterilizing the colonies and working forward from that. Mm-hmm. We know that that's the only way to break the feral cat population. Mm-hmm. Feral cats, while adorable, are not people-friendly.
Right.
They're not going to make good pets. It's even hard for someone who's professionally trained to convert kittens.
Right.
I think we need to figure this out and come back to this board with a plan, especially coming into the warmth and when we all get to hear them late at night, and figuring this out to get this problem solved. And I know there's support in the community and volunteers that are willing to begin helping you.
Absolutely. I'm going to back up to the Bark and Brew. Not only that is going to be a fun event, but the proceeds are going to work for community spay and neuter. So that money, in addition to additional or emergency medical funds, but a large portion of that is going to be just for spay and neuter. And that's how we're going to build our nest egg to have a sustainable program and do this annually so that every year we have X amount of dollars to dedicate completely just to spay and neuter of these community cats.
Okay.
So that's step one of our plan. We need the funding to put that plan in place and really make it something sustainable that we can do throughout the year, every year. So that's step one.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And just for comparison, in 2019, we adopted 101 cats. And then in 18 was 62. So our adoption numbers are climbing. And any animals that have been euthanized have either been owner requested or medically untreatable or feral. And dogs, we also did 145 adoptions from January through March 3rd. In 2019, it was 94, and in 2018, it was 52. And the same thing with euthanasia. Our social media outreach, community is so important that we are being good stewards to the community and listening to them. So I think one of the best ways that we're able to do that is by communicating through our social media page every day and really listening to their feedback. What's important to the community, what are their needs, and making sure we're trying to meet all of those. We currently have over 27,000 followers on our page. This is really helping to increase our adoptions. We have adopters from not just Jackson, but not just in the state of Michigan, but people are driving from other states to adopt animals. It's also really increased our chances of somebody finding their pet. If they're not on social media, it's a chance somebody recognizes their animal, and that's really helping to reunite owners with their animals. Our animal control officers are doing an amazing job. They stay very busy. I think they're interacting with the public in a professional way. And also, always their first step is education and trying to work with people to get them in compliance with the ordinance. We have an extremely high, in my opinion, number of bite cases in Jackson County. They did 36 bite calls, and that's just from January to March 3rd. Still a lot of animals running at large. We're hoping the longer the animal control is here, people will start to keep their animals contained. But I feel like that's probably always going to be one of the higher number of calls that we have. And they also provided assistance to other agencies on 27 cases. And this is just in the first couple months. So when people ask, do you just take in dogs and cats, we just put in a little piece there. It's not just dogs and cats. We've had a little bit of everything from chickens, red-tailed hawk, cow, duck, guinea pig, possum, alligator, pigs, rabbits, raccoons, rats, sheep, skunk, snake, squirrel. So you name it, we never know what we're going to see from day to day. And also, finally, which is a big step, I think, for the community is being able to get their dog licenses at the shelter. We at least can offer them a 1-year dog license at the shelter, and since I've started, people would still come in and come down and expect to get their license there, so I'm happy to be able to say, yes, we can do that now. We've had sold 50 licenses since January 10th, but it will be our practice now when you're adopting an animal that you also get your license at the same time. One-stop shop. Is there any questions?
Lydia, I'd just like to comment, as the chair said, for the great job that you and your staff and the ACOs are doing there. I think the numbers speak to the great job you're doing, the fact that you're not euthanizing any for lack of space, cats or dogs. You've got almost 28,000 people following you on Facebook. Again, it speaks to the great job you're doing. And then lastly, a shout out to the treasurer for helping facilitate getting licenses there. I think it's a great step, and I appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Commissioners.
I appreciate you.
Any other questions or comments? Phil?
Yeah, licenses still available at townships, or did they discontinue that?
I don't know when that stopped taking place, but they haven't been doing that. The treasurer took over sole control of dog licensing. So they were, the only place you could get a license before the animal shelter just this year was downtown at the Tower Building.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Lydia? Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate all your support.
Okay, takes us to, what, one issue for JDOT? The JDOT show. No, we're going to be done by 10.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, there's only 14 items for
Yeah.
us, so
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get done by 10.
Good
All
thing
right.
there's no more letters in the alphabet.
All right, so the first item up for JDOT is the engine replacement. And this is a plow truck that was part of our glider kit program that we did a few years ago, well, 2015, which was a brand-new cab and chassis with a new transmission, and then a refurbished engine was put in it. As you see in the write-up, the engine, it was a fluke. It died way too early. So that's why at Cummins, when we reached out to them, we were able to get them to cover 30% of the repair, making them the low bid. So we are asking, well, first of all, it's in the 2020 budget for vehicle maintenance, which just means we'll have to make a few less oil changes to cover that, right? All right, so we're asking for the board to approve Cummins as a low bid for a cost not to exceed $30,000 to rebuild that engine.
Commissioners, any questions? If not, a motion's in order. Phil?
Support.
Motion and support. Phil,
Question, do we need,
Yes, he does.
is it a monetary cost here? But do we need to, okay, purchases of truck engines and
By policy, yes, we do because of the amount.
should we raise the level? I mean, this is everyday stuff. This is everyday stuff in the trucking industry, and do we really want to take our time to purchase, okay, the purchase of the engines or transmissions?
I think to this level we do.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? If not, a motion has been made and supported. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Town Road Pilot Project.
Okay, so this is a innovative process that we saw when we were out in California and in Alaska. The key to this one is it's a normal recycling project, but then instead of paving on top of it, we'll be doing a double chip seal. We are partnering with Springport Township on this. It's a little bit of a different split. We have it proposed that 50% of the oil used for recycling the township would pay for, and 100% of the chip seal process, leaving JCDOT to cover 50% of the oil and 100% of the labor and equipment costs, which should shake out to be about a 50-50 split on this program. One of the key things is the smoothness will be very important with this after we recycle, so we may have to do some milling on that to touch the high and low spots to get a smooth surface to chip seal on that, which would be part of JCDOT's cost. So it is in the 2020 budget for local road improvement, and we are asking the board to approve at a cost of approximately $80,000.
Okay, and significantly, it's outside our policy, but
Correct.
probably one of the reasons they're bringing it to us. Goes to the full board, and you're going to see how this works to see if you're going to use it again, essentially.
Yep, fingers crossed. It's the process that we want to use for the rural roads for townships when they can't afford a paving reconstruction.
Okay, Commissioners, looking for a motion to send it to the full board.
Support.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. HMA resurfacing for cold in-place recycling.
Okay, so this year we did a little different. The next three bids are our projects for this year, but we broke out our cold-in-place recycling completely into a different package. So this first bid is the paving for our cold-in-place recycling projects. It's almost 30 miles that will be on this bid, and I need to note that the remaining miles, which is I think 10 or 11, are already bid out last year. Reith Riley has them, and the price per ton is lower than what we had this year, which is expected each year it goes up. So this package has two primary roads that will be 100% JCDOT cost, and then the remaining is local roads between the townships that are in JCDOT's 2020 budget, and we're asking you to approve Michigan Paving at the low cost of just over $6 million.
And Angie,
Just
the
over.
next closest bidder was Reith Riley, and they were like, what, 12% higher?
Correct.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions? If not, a motion's in order. And it goes to the full board.
So move.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
I do need to note that that's the Tier 1 asphalt. We talked about that, I think, last month, so it's the better asphalt in that bid.
What, $7 a ton more?
Mhm.
Okay. All those opposed? Motion carried. Blackman Summit Local Road Plan Number 4.
All right, so Blackman Summit. This one is a combined bid. We did that for cost savings. As you can see on the map, they're all located by each other. So we are asking for approval for Michigan Paving again. They were 8.93 miles lower than our engineer's estimate. It is in the 2020 budget for JCDOT, and it's Michigan Paving for $3.1 million.
Angie, two questions from me. One, the price is dropping on oil. Is that going to cause the price, do we think, of oil for asphalt to drop as well?
I do not think so.
Okay.
Because of the amount of construction, I don't think it's going to offset each other.
Okay. And then secondly, just for clarification, so I can let my township know, all the Blackman roads down are south of I-94, correct?
All of
Pretty
the
much.
Blackman roads are south of 94. Got to look at the map, sorry. Yep.
Okay. So, Darius?
Just for clarification, you did mention that this number was in budget?
To the engineer's estimate for the project, yes. Overall, for the entire program, is that what you're asking, or just?
Entire program.
For Blackman, it's year one, really, so,
It's bonded, right?
yep.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you. That's all I had.
Okay. I'm sorry? 30%, right, Angie?
Yep, I gotta go back, hold on. You want the exact? So the cost to the county is, the total project is the 3.1, and the cost to the county will be $954,78,079.
And that's 8% below what was estimated, correct, by the engineers?
8.93%.
Actually,
Looking for a motion to send it to the full board?
Mr. Chair,
Chris,
Yep.
sorry.
I just want to clarify that actually a lot of the match is by in-kind work. So at the most, it would be the 900 and some thousand. But a lot of times, the townships pay for all the materials that are bid out here at 100%. And we track all of our in-kind work. Is that correct, Angie?
In past years, but this doesn't include the cold-in-place recycling roads. So majority of this is the contracted work.
Okay.
That matches all contracted work, sorry.
We're still doing driveways, we're still doing mailboxes, design,
Right, but it's
engineering.
not in this. So above and beyond, yes, for the
Correct.
entire project.
So for a given mile of road, though, we've already put in engineering and all kinds of work, and by the time we contract it out, that remaining 70% is really this bid. Many times. Each project is different,
Different, yeah.
depending on how many
Typically
driveways
in
there
the
are, how
past
many
it has been,
culverts
yeah.
there are. So at the maximum, it would be 900,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, looking for a motion to send it to the full board.
So moved.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Blackman Local Road Plan number 2 west.
So this is the same thing. This is just 100% Blackman Township roads. The bid was 11.3% under the engineer's estimate for this package. Again, it's in the JCDOT 2020 budget. And the match, JCDOT's maximum match is the 30% of $633,726.88. And we are asking for you to approve Michigan Paving as the low bid at the $2,112,422.94. Sorry about that.
Commissioners looking for a motion if there's no questions? Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Blackman Local Road Plan 2 East.
All right, 2 East. This is the other project for Blackman. This one was 4.84% lower than the engineer's estimate. It's in the JCDOT 2020 budget, and again, it's Michigan Paving at $3.8 million.
Commissioners, if no questions, the motion's in order again.
So moved.
Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. JCDOT Road Certification Book.
All right, so this is our annual road certification. This is used for the funding to figure out how much JCDOT gets for the MTF funds. This year we did some cleanup in the book, some typos and some calculations that didn't add up correctly to the total for each map, but there was no substantial changes to the report. So we are asking for you to approve it. It is due March 31st, the end of this month.
So moved.
Okay, the motion to approve, send it to the full board for the chair to sign. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried.
Question.
Go ahead, Bill.
This last bid come in 8% lower than
8.9.
anticipated. I noticed a few of them have come in lower than anticipated. We kind of, I thought, expected the prices to go up because of a lot of activity. Can you?
Dave, if I may.
Go ahead, Steve.
Myself, Mr. Overton, and JCDOT staff met back in November, December, because of the Reith Rally problems we were having in Jackson County with Mid-Michigan Paving. And Mid-Michigan Paving made a commitment to Jackson County that it would be serious about its paving prices and help us make sure we get roads done on time, in schedule, and within the parameters that we have. And that's what you're seeing out of a local paving supplier, a person who sits out here on Elm Road at 127, supplying us with asphalt to get Jackson County done. And it's a business commitment on their part to help us.
Mike?
I just would add that, Phil, your question in regard to, they're coming in lower than the engineer's estimates. The engineers are also taking into account all the various factors. So I think your question is really kind of, are we paying less this year than we did last year? Because the estimates, they're calculating and taking into all factors, meaning inflation and what the market is or isn't.
Yeah, we look at current bid prices that are happening at the MDOT lettings and stuff when we use do our engineer's estimate. So we're using prices that we see out there. They are coming in lower than those prices, but they're still higher than last year's prices. But we are getting better asphalt too.
One other factor, if I could add, is that the timing. I have to give kudos to the team. They really got the bids out early. So, in fact, you were ahead of the recent MDOT letting. So that's, in conversations with contractors, that was one of the things they suggested we do in order to bring in low prices. So,
Michigan Avenue Bridge contract.
All right, this one. So I think it was last month I talked about the construction phase agreement in my update. Here it is. It's the construction phase agreement. This has to be approved for the contractor to get the permit to enter. We are asking for you guys to approve it. I do need to note that upon approval, when we send this in, we'll have to send the check for the $44,000, which is for inspection during construction. It's a pot of money that they charge against, and then we'll get refunded anything that's left. And surprisingly, there is some money left in the design budget, but they won't cash it out until the entire project's done. So hopefully it's overestimated like the design that we sent in. Any questions?
So Angie, this is for the contract itself to authorize the board chair to sign, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And it goes to the full board, and we're looking for a motion. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. I'm sorry, Tony, did I miss something?
So for this agreement, it's the $44,000 that we have to send in with it. The MDOT bridge project, we have it wrote in there, so we pay 5% of that bridge project, which is the $2.7 million that Davis Construction was awarded. So that, does that answer your question? That the bridge project has a match, but that's not part of this contract.
Okay, again, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. And I apologize for missing you, Tony. Live bottom trailers.
All right, so this, we currently have 4 of these trailers. We used to rent them, but with the increase in work, it's getting harder and harder to rent them. Last year, we couldn't find any, and we had to look at shutting down some operations to be able to continue on with our work. These trailers, have a 50-ton capacity. So literally, it's one of these versus 5 of our tandem trucks. So 1 driver to 5 drivers to be able to get the work done that we're using them for. We currently use them for gravel shoulders, re-graveling, gravel roads, chip seal, paving, deberming, contracted pothole patching, milling, recycling for the use of the KMA work. So we're asking for them to approve the purchase. The total purchase amount is $449,000, which we want to note is $50,000 less than the list price. If we order them now, we'll have them in for use in June or July. And they are in the 2020 budget for capital improvement purchases for JCDOT.
Angie, are these kept indoor in our new structure by chance when they're not in use, I assume?
I assume, yes, yes.
Okay. Phil, do you have a question? And then Tony.
Do we have the tractors available with big enough horsepower to pull these?
So we do have tractors to be able to pull them now, but we are constantly watching the market, looking for some used ones to purchase. If we don't find used ones, then in the future, we'll have to bring to the board to buy some new ones.
It'll take a lot of horsepower to pull 50 tons. Thank you.
Tony?
Sorry. Comparing these with the dump trucks that you say they will replace, these things are much, much longer. I take it you've looked at the maneuverability. We're going to be able to get this big trailer and the tractor into places?
For the work, the items of work we use them for, yes. We currently have 4 that we're using,
For
trailers.
live bottom trailers already? Okay, so you're already using live bottom trailers, you're just looking to get additional ones.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, how many did you have currently?
4.
And you're looking
Correct
to
me
buy
if
how
I'm
many
wrong,
more?
Christopher. 2.
2 more. Okay, thank you.
Okay, if no additional questions, needs to go to the full board, look for a motion. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. JDOT F-550 plows.
All right, so back in December of last year, the board approved the purchase of 10 of the F-550 trucks. At that time, we said we'd be coming back with the purchase of plows for it. So here we are. We are asking you to approve the purchase from Performance Automotive Northwest. They are a local vendor. The price difference is $731 from them to the Tri-State, who was the low bid. We're asking for you guys to approve them, because in the policy it allows local preference as long as they're substantially similar and equal. Because of Tri-State's location in Jonesville and us having to send them two drivers out and then coming back, the cost, we think that it'll pretty much be a wash. There won't be the substantial lower price there. So we're asking for the purchase of total amount of $71,433.70 to Performance Automotive Northwest.
And Angie, the price difference is $73 per unit, correct? By what I'm seeing, I think.
I didn't do the math, but
Well,
Yeah, 10 of-
70 versus 7143. So, okay, we have a motion. Is there a support? Support. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. And next we have dust control.
All right, so this is our bid for dust control. Typically, we do ask for approval for up to 3 applications in the year, and that is all dependent on weather. If it's a wet season, we don't typically do 3. If it's really dry, then we'll do the 3. We're asking for you to approve approximately $350,000 is the budget, and it's in the 2020 local roads maintenance budget, and then we'll work it into the 2021 and 2022 budgets, because this is a 3-year bid.
Commissioners, any questions? Phil? And then Tony?
These are at no cost to the townships again this year?
Correct.
Thank you.
Tony?
So dust control is applying brine, salt on the gravel roads?
Yep. Mineral water, yep. I forgot to note who the low bid is, sorry, it's IVMMR.
They're a long-term provider for us, Angie.
Yes.
Tony, you good?
Well, somebody looked at I guess I've had the same question with snow removal. What is all this, these salts, brine, what are they doing with the vegetation along the shoulder of the road and the ditches? What's happening with that, with the water runoff into streams? And has anybody ever looked at the impact of all that salt being tossed out in our environment?
I know that the DEQ monitors that all. Christopher, do you want to help with that question?
Sure, yes. We do follow industry best practices and track current research and literature on this. At this time, this is the only product available to us to use. Dust control is a very important issue to preserve and maintain gravel roads in accordance with best practices. Also, dust plumes caused in dry environments when we haven't had rain are a serious safety hazard. And there have been injuries and deaths throughout Michigan as a result of no dust control treatment. So, but again, we are good environmental stewards at JCDOT and continue to look at best practices. So if there's some miracle solution out there that helps keep dust down, we would certainly look at that. This is the best available, state-of-the-art.
And it's got to be true that it can't be that much different than putting salt on the roads in the winter, could it? Which gets thrown to the side and melts, right, runs off.
True, yep. And salting gravel roads is a messy affair, as we know.
Okay, if no additional questions, a motion's in order, goes to the full board. Motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Pavement marking services.
Okay, so PK was the lowest bid. They have been doing their pavement marking for a number of years. We're very happy with their work. We're asking for a total cost of services up to the $500,000 this year. It is in JCDOT's primary and local maintenance budgets. Any questions?
Commissioners, any questions? Not a motion's in order. Motion and support, send it to the full board. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Cold patch.
Okay, so this year, we did some testing on the material, and if you look at the bid tabs, we're asking for approval of the low bid, which is Lakeland Asphalt, but then also the highest bid, which is Capital Asphalt. Both materials tested well and performed well. Our crews have used the Capital out on state truck lines in the past, and we're very happy with it. The two in-between bidders we didn't even test it because it didn't meet our visual inspection, or we tested and it didn't meet our actual specs. So we're asking for approval of the purchase of up to $335,000 this year, with Lakeland be the primary and Capital Asphalt being the backup.
Well, Angie and Chris, I will say I appreciate you going further than just taking the low bid and making sure we're getting the best product. Commissioners, any questions? If not, a motion's in order. Motion and support goes to the full board. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Item W, monthly report.
All right, so our monthly's in there. Operations is loving this nice weather, so they're getting out there and doing some work that we typically don't get to do during the winter. Some ditching, some guardrail repairs. They're starting culvert installation for the projects this year. Tree trimming. They got to get out on 94 and do some patching out there on a Sunday morning. Then for engineering, I'd like to just touch on the Michigan Ave Bridge. Once it's signed at full board, Amtrak says it takes 7 to 14 days for them to approve that. And then after that process, the contractor should get their permit to enter and get going out there. At that time, we will have a public meeting for the residents out there and get some information, door hangers and stuff delivered. And then McDivitt project, we're working on that. We've encountered some challenges with utilities and signals and budget, so we're working on that. We're just want to let you guys know we're trying to build the best possible road for our community. Hopefully, we will get Phase 1 out to bid by the end of this week. Unless you guys have questions.
Commissioners, any questions of Angie? Tony?
The commissioners did approve several new equipment purchases that should have made ditching more efficient. What's your plans for this coming season for ditch reconstruction, deberming? A couple of townships I represent, this question always comes up with some of their roads that the ditches are no longer ditches, they're berms, are higher than road elevation. How are you using this new equipment to take care of this?
Well, Bob's not here to answer that, but I know that they have a plan. The ditching will be throughout the season. Our guys, they do a lot of the work, as Christopher was talking about, on the local projects also. So we'll have it scheduled out throughout the year to get ditching done. Deberming typically is a fall process that we do. So I can't answer to if that will be spattered throughout the construction season with operations. Christopher, do you know?
Yeah, the plan is still developing, but if you can give us a couple of townships' names after the meeting, we will certainly reach out to them and give them specifics on their roads. And we'd sure like to hear what their concerns are. Our maintenance crews have a long, long list, and we'll make sure their concerns are on that list. So,
Chris, maybe we can include that conversation next month, then?
sure.
Yeah,
can do that.
we can
Provide an
highlight
update.
ditching and deberming.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Angie.
Thank you.
Takes us down to the claims. Just as a footnote, our committee was the only one that claims were printed for. They were having issues with the other committees, and there's not a signature page. But we'd still be looking for approval of the claims, which have made their way around, I believe. You're going to pay him with that check you're writing, Feller? We have a motion and support. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, the same. Motion carried. Other minutes, there are none, and the April reporting schedule is there. Takes us back to public comment. Brad, anything to say? Shakes his head no. Committee member comments. Thanks for being efficient. We're done by 10. We're adjourned.